A Guiding Star by Lizzie Paish. Day 20. A Guiding Star. Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, wise men came from the east to Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he who was born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him." And lo, the star which they had seen in the east went before them, till it came to rest over the place where the child was. Matthew chapter 2, 1-2 and 9. What a beautiful image of those wise men from the east, with a guiding star showing the way, orienting them towards their goal, even making it clear when they'd arrived. What is not emphasised in the story, but I think is worth noticing, is that the wise men had no idea where the star was going to lead them. They saw it in the east, and they set off, reaching King Herod's palace, which seemed to be the sort of place a king would be born. "For some reason the name Bethlehem keeps popping into my head," said Melchior. The others looked up from the maps and scrolls in front of them, surprised. "But Bethlehem is just a tiny village in the middle of nowhere. How could that be the birthplace of a king?" said Balthazar. "I know, it doesn't make any sense. I just have this feeling about it. We can't head off on a wild goose chase over there. Let's go to Jerusalem and check out the palace. That's a far more likely location, don't you think?" "I guess so," said Melchior. Days later. "We have come to worship him," said Balthazar. The midday sun didn't penetrate this throne room deep within the palace. The coolness emanating from the acres of pearly marble was welcome to these three strangers, themselves accustomed to grandeur and comfort, now exhausted from the desert heat. The last 3 weeks of sleeping under simple awnings by night and riding bad-tempered, stinking camels by day, eating simple, barely adequate meals, had taken their toll on bodies and tempers. Their elegant robes were caked with dust from the road and sweat from days of travel. Herod, who'd been lounging on the heavily decorated throne as they entered, now sat alert, watchful. His dark hooded eyes showed no hint of kindness. Although he appeared to be smiling, a muscle in his jaw twitched. There was a date stone stuck to one of the folds of his silk gown. The tense courtiers behind him were reminiscent of deer frozen in the hunter's sights. "King of the Jews? I'm the King of the Jews, and my son after me," said Herod. This wasn't the welcome they'd hoped for, and worse, this didn't look like the end of the journey. So far, not so wise. These educated intellectuals from the East had anticipated the birth of Jesus from their ancient texts and astronomical signs. No doubt about it, they were smart guys. But up to this point, they'd been relying on their own knowledge, experience, education and expectation for this important journey. If Melchior did have that moment of insight, he clearly didn't follow it. In case you don't know the story, Herod asked his own advisors what was going on. Who was this King of the Jews they were asking for? When they told him, he passed on the information to our 3 wise travellers with the instruction, "When you find him, come back and tell me, so I can worship him too." Yeah, right. Luckily, I think this was the point at which the wise men began to wise up. Maybe it was that cruel glint in Herod's eye, or the insincerity in his tone, but something changed. Now the star started to move ahead of them in the night sky. It turned out they didn't need Herod's information anyway. Now they were paying attention. There was another guidance system at work. Maybe the star had been leading them the whole time, but they decided they would head for Herod's palace because it was the obvious place to go. How often have we ignored or overruled our inner guidance simply because it didn't make sense to us? Some nudges don't seem to be leading us in the direction we expect, so it's easy to call them ridiculous and discount them. But what if there's a greater plan we can't see? Inner guidance doesn't always make sense. It doesn't show the whole journey, just the next step. Go to Bethlehem and then see what happens, which ultimately is what they did. I wonder how we can do the same in our own lives. What guiding stars have we been ignoring or perhaps missing completely as we consider that our plans are the only ones worth following? After they'd worshipped Jesus in the manger and delivered their gifts, the guidance continued. In a dream, they were warned not to return to Herod's palace. They didn't question it. They travelled home another way.